May I recognize the members of the diplomatic corps, but especially recognize the ambassadors from the Middle East, be very empathetic about recognizing the ambassador from Palestine, Your Excellencies, professors, doctors, receivers of the Order of Oliver Tambo, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We as South Africa are honored to be in partnership with this Africa Institute today to remember, to speak about, to honor the two icons of my people, Nelson Mandela and Albertina Sisulu. Earlier this year, the President of the Republic of South Africa announced that we would spend the whole of this year remembering both Albertina and Nelson, not only because they were our leaders, but because we were finding ourselves in a space where we needed to remember who we were. We're finding ourselves as a nation where we thought we were beginning to flounder away from the values which they stood for. We remembered them, and the President, if I quote him, said that we should not just remember them in words. He said we must honor them, not only in word, but importantly in direct action towards the achievement of their shared vision of a better society. We celebrate in the lives of these distinguished and selfless servants of the people because they were just that, simple, fatherly, motherly. We look at Albertina Sisulu, and we always remember that she was actually the deputy chairperson of an organization which was the first multi-racial women's organization of South Africa, FETSO. They came together, and in 1954, came out with what laid the foundation of the Charter for Women's Rights in South Africa. In that, Mayor Albertina led, and you know about the march to the union buildings where they led over 20,000 people. But the preamble to that document, which they produced, which was the first women's charter of South African women, said, "We, the women of South Africa, wives and mothers, working women, housewives, African, Indian, European, and colored, hereby declare our aim of striving for the removal of all laws, regulations, conventions, and customs that discriminate against us as women and deprive us in any way of our inherent right to the advantages, responsibilities, and opportunities that society offers to any section of its population." That was Albertina Sisulu. She was a midwife, not only the midwife of bringing our children into the world, which sometimes she did even in her spare time. She was literally the midwife of the liberation struggle. She is that woman who was the first woman to be arrested when the ANC organized the Defiance Campaign. She is that woman who was married and unmarried because the husband languished in jail. She was this mother whose children all became activists, underground activists. The others went into exile, the others stayed indoors. But those who stayed internally inside South Africa were frequent guests of the state presidents in prisons. She is this woman who was quite clear about her feelings about equality of sexes. She's a woman who raised other people's children because hers were either in prison or in exile. She's this woman who would always remind us that there is no nation that is complete unless the women stood up and were counted. She is that woman in the South African lingue who held the knife on the sharp end. She would stand in front of any enemy, any police, anybody who tried to attack the communities of Soweto. She was not a counselor, but she would summon councillors of Soweto and tell them how to deal with the issues of civil society. So she was not great in height, in fashion. She was great in our hearts because she was honest. She, as I said earlier on, Prof, she and her husband welcomed Nelson Mandela when he first went to Johannesburg as a youngster, introduced him to politics, gave him refuge because he didn't just go straight to the university. He started by working in the mines.